Hello, welcome to GRA TV, your trusted source for tax information. There have been press statements and communication from the Ghana Revenue Authority announcing that GRA will no longer be accepting checks in the tax offices, and soon cash will not be accepted as well. Joining us today, we have Reverend Amishadai Owusu-Amoah, the Commissioner General of GRA, and he is here to throw some light on this new GRA cashless policy and give us the info direct from the source on where and how we can pay our taxes and levies. So hello, sir.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
I hope you've had a good day so far.
Yes, so far it's been so good.
Thank you. So we want to know, really, in simple terms, what is this policy? What is it about?
I think when we talk about cashless, it's a term that we have coined, or other people sometimes also coin the same term. But our aim is to ensure that we as GRA focus on the things that we know how to do best, and then we leave the cash management or the handling of cash, and for that matter, and near cash items and other instruments of payments to the banks who are also well more trained to handle that. So when I say that, when I say somebody will ask, but we collect revenue, yes, and we must distinguish between revenue and cash, or revenue and checks. When you're collecting revenue, it doesn't mean that you're collecting cash. You have to assess somebody, you have to audit somebody, you have to look at the taxpayer and see what he has to give you. But once you have sorted out what he has to pay, there are banks and other financial institutions who are better trained to be able to do this. So what we are saying is that let's move these things to those who are trained to do, and then we can get more time and focus on what we are trained to handle.
Okay. So that means then that the reason for this policy is to leave the collecting of money and all that part to the people who are trained to do so, like you said.
Yes. Okay. And the reason why we've had to adopt this, there are not number of advantages. There are advantages to us as an organization. There are advantages to the taxpayer as our customers. There are advantages to the banks as the third party who collect for us. And overall, there are advantages to us as a nation. If I want to go through them, I will start with the taxpayer. The taxpayer needs to be given convenience. I want to say needs to be given convenience. You should be able to pay the tax from the comfort of your home. And therefore, one other major aspect of the cashless is the ability to use any method of payment that is accepted in the industry. So for example, you can sit in your home, do a Momo, and pay your tax. You can sit in your home, use your credit card or your debit card, and pay your tax. You can sit in your home, go onto your internet banking. If you are banking with any of the other banks that have internet banking, you have your account with the same bank. And because now we have also allowed more banks to participate, because a year ago, remember, there were only 2 banks who were allowed to collect tax. Today, we have done in such a way that there are 22 banks who are allowed to collect tax. So you have a taxpayer who also has the account for the, our account in the same bank. So he can just do debit his account and credit the taxpayer. And within 1 minute, transaction completed. And last but not the least, you can also transfer from your account to another bank if you so wish. Okay. But actually, there's no need for you to transfer because all the 22 banks already are able to have accounts. So all that you need to do is debit your account, credit the other account. If you check, it comes to a point people don't even have to write checks if you want to use internet banking. So that's convenience to the taxpayer. I'll come later on to the convenience to the GRA, and then convenience to us as a nation.
Okay. So does this policy apply to all types of taxes and levies?
Yes, it applies to all types of taxes and levies. We started last year with the customs duties. And so by January of this year, all customs duties were being paid by this method. But at the same time, we had not stopped completely the receiving of the checks in our offices. So it was giving the chance for people to use either or. But currently what we are saying is that we are taking all the tax types, we have added all the domestic tax types, so corporate income tax, your PAYE, your personal income tax, if we are still doing the vehicle income tax, but for now it has been stopped. But anytime it's introduced, we have the USSD code that you can use to pay for it as well. So all these methods are available, and it covers all the various tax types.
So how does the process differ from paying at the tax office?
Okay, that's an important question. So previously, you come to the tax office, do all your filing, all your processing, your files determined, and then we have a number of tellers. You go there and then pay the tax. Now, in order to increase the convenience, we have also introduced or tried to enhance your ability to file online, to check your status online, then to pay online. So if you are somebody who will learn quickly and be able to file online, then for you, you don't even need to come to the office at all. You can do everything and then pay, and you are done. So you only come there if maybe there's something you don't understand, that you want to come and talk to the taxpayer to understand. Just like today, if you look at the banks, there are some of us who hardly enter the bank, but there are also others who also go to the bank. And people don't go to the bank not solely for cash. So what we are seeing is that in our new process, for cash or for payments, we want you to do it through the banks. From 1st of June, we started with the checks, and we are seeing that we will not accept the check at all, but you have to pay all the checks to the banks. And then from 1st of July, then we'll stop collecting the cash. Then we'll say you have to pay all the cash through the banks.
So this means that if I file my returns online and then I pay online, do I have to bring any slip to the office to prove that I paid, or it automatically goes into the system?
Okay, thank you very much. So kind of what you have done is that it goes into the system automatically, but at the same time, it gives you a receipt, which you can use to prove. So you don't need to carry the receipt to the bank unless there's some sort of dispute. I'm sure you recall before you left university, when you want to pay your fees, you don't necessarily go to
draft. I don't know what they call it.
Yes,
go to EcoBank.
You go to EcoBank. Okay, so today you go to any other banks. When you pay, even though you might go to the university to go and show your slip to show the university, you don't actually need to do that because there's a link between the university and the bank such that when you pay, the university automatically sees it that you have paid. In the same way, when you pay, we at the tax office knows that you have paid. But if you have to come there, then maybe there's some sort of dispute and then you have to show. But otherwise, you don't need to come there to come and show that you have paid.
So is there any way you can confirm? I'm just looking at the people who might be a bit skeptical. They feel like, okay, I paid at the bank before the deadline, but now I go to the TSC and they are saying I owe. So is there any way you can confirm that, yes, I paid at the bank or I paid through Momo and it has been received at the GRA office?
Yeah, that's the reason why I said that you would then get another receipt, or if it's Momo, you get
so that's
an alert. So if there's any dispute, that's what you use. For example, if you decide to use the SWIFT, your bank will give you a SWIFT advice. So once you get a SWIFT advice, you can then give it out. Today, if you're also using any of the bank mobile apps that they have, for most of the banks, they have their USSD method of payment. They have their mobile apps. Then they have their internet banking. The USSD has a limit as to how much you can transfer using the USSD code. The mobile apps also have a limit as to how much you can transfer using the mobile apps. And then they have a higher limit when you are using the internet. So you find out that most of the corporates, big corporates, they have the internet that they can use. And they have a system such that even where we require double approval, you can initiate a transaction. Let's say, for example, you are paying a tax, you are paying, let's say, 100 million. And you initiate, so in such a situation, we might have a situation where one person cannot authorize the 100 million out of the organization. But the system is such that when you authorize 100 million, it goes to another person who was then approves. Then eventually it moves straight to the taxpayers office and it's done. So there are a lot of convenience there.
Okay. Is the informal sector included in this?
Yes, and it is included, but there's a lot of encouragement that we need to do to be able to get them on board. And that is why we have set up, as part of this process, a number of telephone lines. We have provided the customer support or customer service, where if you have any challenge, you can call. And we have been advertising these numbers. And then you get people who are on call 24/7, who can then give you help in order to be able to help you to progress. Again, if you are talking about the informal sector, the ability to go to the bank is key. Yes. But if people have also learned, then they can also use their online methods. And if you go to places like some of our markets today, you find out that they still have their laptops and PCs there. And they still do online messages to their people in China and Dubai and Turkey to do transactions. So they also have a bit of, so all these are areas that we can still continue to operate on to improve it. And that is why when it comes to filing and checking on the status, we are not stopping it completely from our offices, because those are processes that for a long time will continue to happen in our offices, though we are encouraging and we'll continue to put up various means for encouraging people to migrate from coming physical to come and file. But as for the payment, because we have very well established banks who are trained to be able to handle the cash, we can conveniently say we are stopping it completely in our offices and encourage them to go ahead to other places. Today, apart from 22 banks, we are in discussions with the Apex Bank, which is the umbrella body for the over 100 rural banks in the country. These rural banks, if you look at their numbers of branches, they have over 800 branches across the length and breadth of this country. So if you take these 800 branches of these rural banks, which we are currently working on, and you add it to other banks like the CBG, the Ghana Commercial Bank, I can assure you that for every place where we have a GRA office, you will have a bank branch to enable you to pay either by check or pay by cash. Or, as my preferred option, do an online electronic payment.
Thank you so much. Let's take a short break, and then when we come back, we'll talk more about the rural banks idea, because I'm very interested in that.
Paying your taxes and duties have become much easier. You can now pay through these participating banks on ghana.gov. Visit gra.gov.gh for more information. Ghana Revenue Authority, our taxes, our future.
Welcome back to GRA TV. We are still speaking to the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Reverend Amishadai Owusu-Amoah. And before the break, we were talking about the rural banks, Apex Bank, and how we are going to be benefiting from their distribution across the nation. What I wanted to ask, so we have heard from some taxpayers that why would we not have the banks co-locating in the offices with the GRA? So that it's more convenient for the taxpayer. They come here, they do everything here, and then they go away, instead of having to go to a bank.
Okay, that's one good option, which actually we started with and gave some of the banks the chance to have the offices in our offices. So we call it implant tellers. So we have the teller. But then the extended advantage of having the taxpayer go to their banks is the fact that you avoid the situation where you have to now bank the transaction and still have to try and make sure that the transaction is reflected in your bank accounts on time. So it means that the banks will have to now create additional branches in our offices and put additional tellers in our offices. And then in doing that, you are also restricting the taxpayer to the particular bank that you have in the office. Yes. Because you cannot have, let's say, 4 banks in one location. So you end up saying that I'm going to put, let's say, Bank A in. So when I come there and my account is with Bank F, then it means that now I have to now carry the cash and come and deposit it in Bank A in your. But if we say go to any bank, you have the convenience of going to any bank and making sure that the transaction will. And again, if you are late, you know that you can, like I said, you can sit in your office and do a debit my account, a credit the other account. So that is the reason why we are not encouraging that implant tellers or having the banks opening offices across our offices. So that's another reason. But there are also a lot of advantages that come to the banks from the fact that the customers can come to them. Because in that case, what is happening is that they can bank for all the taxpayers that come there. Number two, they can do what we call cross-selling. You see that there's a customer who always comes and he's carrying cash. So the bank gets an opportunity to ask the person, oh, wow, you could always carry cash. What about you don't do this one? And then through that, they had to open accounts for them and things like that. So in fact, what we are doing is that we are encouraging the monies to go through the banking system. And again, the banks also get some deposits running through there. And what we have done is that we have given the banks a 48-hour window. When I say 48-hour window, it means that for every money that you receive today, in 48 hours, the money must move to the central bank. And previously, the two banks that we were working with have to do that manually by passing transactions and moving the funds. Today, what we have done is we have automated the process. So if the money comes in today at 2 o'clock, by 2 o'clock the next 2 days, the funds will automatically move from the account. So that's also convenience for the bank. So you don't need to now have the burden of trying to remember which funds should move, which ones should not move, because the funds will move automatically. That's convenience for them as well. So they get a 2-day window to be able to use the government funds to do some business. Then it also moves. Then the advantage to us as a country, because previously you have the 48-hour window, but it is manual. So it means that some monies will stay at the banks if the banks want to play with your money. But today it is automatic. So it also makes sure that the government gets its money on time. Now link it again to when we are collecting the money. When we collect the money, we collect it maybe check. We have processing. We are not finished processing the same day. So the things will not even go into our account. We go to account the second day. When we finish, we now have to carry it to the bank to go and pay the third day. So by the time the government receives a funds, it's 4 days, 5 days, 6 days. And what happens within 4 days, 5 6 days? The government goes back to the banks and borrow money in terms of the T-bills and things like that, because you have to pay your salary, you have to pay somebody else's salary. But today, in fact, since we started cashless, I can assure you that previously we had a situation where we always have more monies collected. When I say more monies collected, in terms of revenue showing in our accounts, than the money that has been deposited in our bank accounts. When we started the cashless, now it's the other way around. We have more money received in our account than we have the records. Because people pay before we come and finish the record. So it's a lot of convenience for the government so that he gets its money on time. And then last but not least, again, when you look at it, when I talked about creating a payment platform for the country where more money passes through the various banking system rather than people putting monies
in their hands and pockets
and under their pillows and under their beds and things like that.
So we are saying that from 1st June, checks were no longer accepted. And then from 1st July, cash will no longer be accepted. So have we fully engaged the banks on how to handle the peak days? Because I'm expecting that from 1st July, it will be really busy on the peak days.
Yeah, we have been engaged. We've had a couple of meetings, virtual meetings with them. We know their initial challenges. Therefore, we are engaging them to be able to ensure that all the challenges will be addressed. For example, I have seen a few cases where the banks, in selecting the tax type, have selected the wrong tax type. So you find out that the money that should have gone to pay, let's say, for example, PAYE has gone to. So again, we are educating them and encouraging them so that they will be able to understand it better, and then these things will be resolved. Not only that, as I speak today, we have put together various teams that are going around. In fact, they've gone around to all the offices in Accra, and today they are in Ashanti region. From Ashanti region, they go to the various regions and doing the education, engaging our own officers, engaging the banks, and engaging the taxpayers. Find out what the problems are, what the challenges are, making sure that we have ways of fixing them. As you rightly said, it's something that we have initiated. And once you initiate something like that, you do have challenges, but you know that if you are on course and you are providing the support, we'll be able to deliver. If you take ICOMS, when we started ICOMS, there were challenges initially, but with time, the challenges are being resolved and then improvements are coming.
So since we are expecting some challenges, will there be a sort of grace period where penalties don't matter, or no?
I think that we will be able to do a lot without necessarily people having to incur penalties, because if you start early, you'll be able to finish it.
And we know
on time.
Ghanaians like the deadline is when you want to come and pay.
So we want to encourage Ghanaians, like I said, even the online, you can do online and debit and credit. In fact, you can even do it on Saturdays. Or even on Sundays. You debit and credit.
So there's no reason for you to miss.
So there are a lot of, and then what we have done is also, like I said, we have a number of telephone lines, and we continue to advertise in the papers. And I think I also want to thank the banks. They have really come on board. And today, for example, when I look into the papers, I saw several full-page advertisements by banks encouraging their customers to come and pay their taxes through them. So I think that the way they have also come on board has been quite amazing. And I am sure that if we have challenges, it will be for the first month. And by the second month, we should be cruising. So I'm counting on it. And I also want to commend the staff. When we started, they also had a number of challenges. And I like the openness with which questions were brought out and what we thought. And then once the things were discussed, we all came together, we found solutions, we explained things that people understand. And together, I see a communal spirit among all of us to drive it. And I think that I also patted the staff at the back for such excellent cooperation. So staff, the banks, and our taxpayers, I thank all of them very much for the cooperation that we are getting.
We are doing a good job. So my last but not last question, is the GRA still asking taxpayers to pay through Ghana.gov, or? Oh yes, thank you very much. That's a very important question. All the payments that we are doing, we want it to go through Ghana.gov. Okay. And that's a very, very important question. The reason why we are doing the Ghana.gov is that His Excellency the Vice President and the government in general have mooted this idea of getting a way of collecting all these revenues. And all these revenues, once are collected, allows, like I said in the beginning, somewhere in the middle of the interview, the ability for the government to have a picture of all the funds that they are collecting. So if it's game and wildlife, it's going through that. If it is any other taxes or other non-tax revenues, they are all going to the Ghana.gov. So at any point in time, the government can see the revenue. So it is important for us that you go through Ghana.gov so that we can have a hold on the money that we have collected at any point in time. Okay. Let's take another short break, and then when we come back, we will give a little wrap-up to the session. Okay, thank you.
Paying your taxes and duties have become much easier. You can now pay through these participating banks on Ghana.gov. Visit GRA.gov.gh for more information. Ghana Revenue Authority. Our taxes, our future.
Welcome back. We are still here with Reverend Amishadai Owusu-Amoah. We've heard a lot in the news recently about GRA receiving some awards. Would you like to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, I think in recent there have been 2 awards. One was at the 5th CEO Summit, where awards were given to various companies, and the leadership for the matter, GRA, was awarded for outstanding leadership in the public sector. And then recently, last week, there was the Ghana Financial Intermediation Awards, which actually awarded institutions for bridging the gap between finance and where the monies are coming from. And they acknowledge also the leadership role that GRA is playing in ensuring that funds are flowing through the system, through the financial system, rather than going through various hands. So these have been the 2 recent awards. And I think that these awards go to prove the fact that we as a team are doing something that the society, and for that matter, people are realizing that there's something happening. So I want to thank all the staff for their commitment and their devotion to some of these changes and allowing people to experience the changes that are coming through. And I believe that as we continue to work together as a team like this, more such recognitions will come. And the recognitions are dedicated to our staff in the first place and to our taxpayers who are also making use of the service that we are providing.
Do you have any final thoughts and comments for our taxpayers and potential taxpayers who may be watching?
Yeah, I think that I want to first thank the many taxpayers that we have and that are all contributing towards the collection of the revenue. It is because of their commitment and their compliance that have helped us to be able to achieve our targets in the previous years. We are determined to also achieve our target this year. And when we say we are determined, we are counting on them to be able to be compliant and pay whatever is due from them. And then we'll be able to, and we'll be able to achieve our targets. But at the same time, our commitment is also to provide convenience to them and make it a little easier, because paying monies or taxes is not easy. And therefore, if you also have to struggle to be able to pay it, then it makes it more difficult. So we want to make sure that they have convenience in being able to pay their taxes. Again, we also want to make sure that this notion about intimidation and not being treated well, and notion about tax officers sometimes being fraudulent, that are eliminated. And therefore, we are emphasizing on our code of ethics and want to encourage the taxpayer. If you would feel they are not being treated fairly, we have established the Tax Audit and Quality Assurance Department. We have established a new department that we call the Customer Experience Department, and you are free to make a call to any of these 2 offices, and whatever issue that we have, we'll follow up and ensure that you get proper response to these issues. And I also want to emphasize that, but if we give all this convenience and people still do not pay, then we'll be forced to apply our enforcement measures, which tends not to be very
Friendly.
Yes, they are not friendly at all, and we don't want to use them, but we will not hesitate to use them if people are not paying the taxes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for taking time out of your, what I can imagine is a very busy schedule, to come here and speak with us. And thank you to our viewers as well. And until next time, this is GRA TV, your trusted source for tax information.